Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So today on the channel, we'll be learning how to make handkerchief flare gown. Okay, so I have this fabric here. I have about 3 yards. I'll be using this to make the um bottom and the top part of this. Okay, so to get our flare, divide your waist circumference by 6.284. Okay, whatever you have, okay, use that. For me, I got 4.8, but I started to use 5 because I'll be adding a zip to this. Okay, remember this is a gown. Okay, so I folded this by the length. Okay, folded this by 60 instead. Okay, so that I can get the length I want. Okay, so I want the sides of my skirt to be longer than the front and the back part of my skirt. Okay, so I'm just going to measure this out. Remember I said I have 5 inches, okay, for my round my the radius of my waist. Okay, so I'm checking that out if it will be enough. Okay, measuring out to know, added 5 inches to the desired length I want this to end. Okay, I want the short part of the skirt to be about 23 inches, and then the long part to be about 30 30 to thereabout. Okay, because my fabric is not much, I'll be managing this out. Okay, so I've gone ahead to mark where I have this. I'm going to fold this up so that I'm going to have 4 pieces. All right, I hope you got that. Okay, so now I'm just going to mark out my 5 inches for the radius of my waist. Okay, now I'm marking this out from the close end of the skirt. Remember how we did for our flare? So I'm just doing that. Okay, gonna ahead to mark this out. Okay, I mark this out round. Okay, I'm just going to make a connection so my lines are together when I'm cutting. I don't have issues. So I'm just going to confirm the lines. Okay, remember I said I want the long part of the skirt to be by the sides. Okay, so I went ahead to measure that out. Okay, this will be enough for that, for what I want, sorry, including my hemming allowance. Okay, and also measured out the part I want for my front. Okay, so I have that accurately for what I want. Okay, so it's going to work out perfectly. All right, so I have what I need for this. Now if you want yours to be longer, if you want yours to be longer, you know what to do. You increase the length, and if you're increasing the length, ensure you're working with more fabric. Okay, unlike mine here. All right, so ensure you're working with more fabric, say about 3.5 to 4 yards. All right, so I'm just going to cut this out. Okay, I've confirmed it. This is what I need exactly for my skirt. Okay, if that's a down part of this. Okay, remember this is a gown, so the down part is a skirt. All right, so this is what I have after doing that. Okay, you can already see the effect. Okay, the sides are longer than the front. Okay, I'm going to hem this up. Okay, fold up the ends of my of the skirt. Okay, fold this up, going to hem it all over, and then I'll be making notches at the sides. Okay, remember I said I want my sides to be longer, so I went ahead to make notches. Then for the back part of this, okay, for the back part of the skirt, I'm going to be slitting it into two. I'll be putting a zipper. This is a gown, so I'll be adding a zipper to it later on. Okay, so for now I'm just going to keep this aside and work on the up part. Okay, so I've gone ahead to fold a piece of fabric into four. I'll be marking out the front and back together. Okay, so I'm going to start putting in my vertical measurement, the first being my bust point, which is 10 inches. Okay, now my half length is 15 inches. Okay, so the front part of this will be having um an armhole dart, so I decided to add an extra 1 inch, and then an extra 1 inch for the joining allowance to the down part of this. So I'm using 17 inches as my full length. Okay, so I'm marking out my the neckline. Okay, I marked that the width of the neck I want. I used 3 inches for that. Okay, for the depth I'm working with 4 inches. That's for the front. Okay, so I'm just going to make a simple curve, a simple C curve, sorry, to connect this. All right, you can decide to use whatever neck works for you. All right, so I actually have little of this fabric. Like I said, I'm using just 3 meters of this, so I'm trying to work with what I have. Then for the back neck, I went down by 2 inches, so I'm just connecting this down. Okay, this will not pose as an issue because I'll be adding a zipper to this. All right, so it would be no problem whatsoever. Okay, so after that, I'm going to mark out my shoulder. My shoulder is 15 inches. Okay, divided by 2, I have 7.5. I mark that out. Now, on the point where I have that mark, I'll be coming down by half an inch. Okay, remember, I don't have much fabric. Okay, I have exactly what I need for the joining and everything. So I came down by half an inch, and I'm going to slant this into the shoulder. Okay, please make sure you're working with your rulers while doing this. The next thing I'm going to mark is my armhole line. Okay, which is 7 inches. Okay, to get this, divide your brand bars by 6 and then add 1.5 into inches to whatever you get. Okay, so I'm just going to extend the line to meet that line down there. All right, so I'm going to take the midpoint of this right now. Okay, mark that out. I'll be using that later to get my armhole curve. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is to trace this out properly so it's more visible. Okay, I'm sorry if you cannot see this clearly. All right, so the next thing I want to do is to mark out my bust point. Okay, my bust measurement, sorry. So my round bust is 33. Okay, divided by 4, I have about 8.2 and a half. Decided to go with 8.5. Okay, for a little ease. Okay, and I added 2 inches there for stitching allowance. Okay, then I made the curve. Okay, the first one I'm doing that is just for the back armhole. All right, the armhole curve. Okay, the back is actually bigger than the front for the armhole. So for the back, I just made a simple curve straight down. Then for the front, I'm going to go in at that midpoint I took by half of an inch, and then I'm going to slant it to meet that other end. All right, so that would be the difference for the front and the back. Okay, and I'll connect it to my shoulder line. All right, so that's what I have. Okay, I'll go ahead to repeat the same measurement for my bust point. Okay, 8.5. That's my bust divided by 4, and then 2 inches extra allowance. All right, now my fabric is small, so I'm working with this, trying to manage it up. All right, like I said, if you want yours to be more, you have to make use of more fabric. All right, so I'll do the same thing for the waist. I'm going to mark out my waist. My waist is 30 divided by 4, 7.5, and then I'm going to add an extra 2 inches allowance. Okay, please, you want to ensure you're working with the same waist for your skirt. That's the down part of it, sorry, and then you're using the same waist measurement for the top part. All right, so make sure you use the same thing. Okay, so for the zip allowance, I'll be using 0.5 inch. Okay, because I want this to have to be a little bit snatched at the back. Okay, I don't want this to be bulging. So I'll be using 0.5 inch at the waist, at the bust point. Then at the top part, I'll be using 1 inch. Okay, so I just marked this out. I'm just going to make the connections. Okay, so I already mentioned this earlier. Okay, if you want to do an armhole dart like I did, okay, you just follow my measurement. Okay, but if you decide to do the normal diamond dart, okay, there's no need for this. You just add your allowances to the side, your dart allowance to the side. Okay, so I'm just going to mark this, cut this out. All right, I've got that dart of the back, and this is that of the front. You can see the difference between them. So I'm just going to cut out the shoulder. Okay, then cut out the neck for the back first, and then cut out that of the front. Okay, you want to be careful while doing this. Okay, and then I'll just cut it out. Okay, so this is what we have. This is what it looks like. Okay, after all the cutting. All right, like I said, the front will be having an armhole dart. Okay, I'll be showing you how I do this as we go on. All right, so I'm going to place this back. Okay, now I want to make a slant for the back. Okay, remember the front to be having an armhole dart. Okay, so while after taking this in, the back will be longer if we don't take out the 1 inch extra at the back. Okay, so I'm going ahead to mark my armhole dart for the front first of all. Okay, so that's 4 inches. My bust span is 7 inches divided by 2, 3.5, and then 0.5 inches for stitching allowance. All right, so I'm going to take up the up part. Okay, and then cut out the extra 1 inch. Okay, remember the 1 inch we're cutting out from the back is the dart allowance we added to the front. Okay, the back is going to have a normal it's going to have the diamond dart. Okay, so the front is going to have the armhole dart. All right, I hope you get that. Okay, so I'm just going to cut this out because If we don't cut this out, by the time we finish, by the time we take the allowance for the dart in front, the back will be longer. We don't need it to be like that. Okay, so we have this like this. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is to also make it slant at the back. All right, the zipper area will be going up by 1 inches. Okay, and I will slant this to nothing. Okay, to the other part. Okay, I'm doing this because the back part of our body is kind of flat. Okay, it's going to pull up the fabric more. From the thumbnail, if you saw that clearly, you'll notice that everything was at the same line after I finished stitching it down. Okay, don't want the back to be longer than the front. All right, so ensure you do this too, okay, for your own, so it turn out perfect. Okay, so I've gone ahead to do that. Okay, so you can see the difference from the front and the back already. It's like the back is like 2 inches short. Okay, so I want to mark out my back dart. Okay, I'll go ahead to do that. Remember I said my bust span is 7 inches. Okay, divided by 2, 3.5. So I just mark that down with 4 inches. Okay, including my allowance for stitching down. All right, so I have that all. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to cut out the facing for this. All right, so if you don't want to do this, okay, you can go ahead to use your bias to pipe this up, or also use the fabric to pipe it up. Okay, but I want to cut a facing for this, sorry, because there's the zipper fixing style I need, okay, that I want to do for this video. I need a facing for that. Okay, so I'm going to cut a facing. So if you want to also do my zip style, okay, I would advise you actually cut a facing so you can get this accurately. Okay, the zip style I'm doing is not like a magic, or it's not magic or something. Okay, I'm just doing an English fixing of zip. Okay, so maybe later on I'll make a video on this so that it will be more clearer. Okay, so at least we'll get a better understanding of this. Okay, so I'm cutting out the front interfacing. Okay, I've cut this out, so I'm gonna have to fold out another piece that I want to use to cut out the back piece. Okay, remember I said I don't have much fabric. Okay, so I'm just trying to manage this up. Okay, so I'm cutting facing for both the front and the back. Okay, they are highly needed for this because of like I said earlier, the zip pattern I want to fix. Okay, I'll be showing you how to do this. All right, so remember our back piece is 2, so we'll be needing 2 of this. Okay, I have this on fold, but I'll be cutting this out later on. All right, I'll be cutting this out later on. All right, cutting it into 2, splitting it into 2, so I have 2 pieces for what I want to work on. All right, so I'm just going to split this into 2. Okay, so I'll start with working with the back piece. Okay, so I'm just going to put in my dart for the back. Okay, now my dart will be about 7 inches long. Okay, please go ahead to measure yours. Okay, to be 7 inches long. Okay, remember I said we're using a normal dart, so it's just to stitch it down and then put our interfacing. Okay, so I've gone ahead to do this. Okay, remember I said I want to be using do a specific type of zip fixing, so I left 1 inch, which is my zip allowance at the top. Okay, I didn't stitch that down. Okay, I've gone ahead to do that. So for the front, I've gone ahead to turn this out with my facing already. Okay, so I'll be showing us how to put in our armhole dart. Okay, remember I already make a mark in front. Okay, so I'm just going to mark this out so it's a little bit noticed. Okay, the dart will be pointing towards the bust. Okay, so I'm going to fold this up. Okay, so while doing this, if you have electricity, okay, while doing this, please iron this down, but if you don't, you can just pin this up. Okay, so the length of my dart will be 6 inches long. Okay, so I went ahead to pin this up like I said. Okay, I'm just going to pin this down so that it will be a template for when I'm stitching this. Okay, so I'll just make stitches. All right, make stitches, okay, on the both sides of this. Okay, so I've gone ahead to stitch it down. This is what it looks like. Okay, you want to ensure that they are both on the same line. Okay, you don't want one at the top and one at the bottom. All right, So the next thing I'm going to do, okay, after this is to join the shoulders. Okay, our cloth is coming together bit by bit. Okay, so I'm just going to arrange this down and bring in the back piece. Okay, so that I can join the shoulders up. All right, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over to the machine and stitch down the shoulders. Okay, so this is what I have after stitching the shoulders, sorry, they're looking good already. So I'm just going to cut out the sleeve. Okay, like I said, I don't have much fabric. Okay, so I'm just going to use this to cut out my sleeve. I was just measuring out if it would be enough for what I needed. Okay, so if you've not seen the video on the channel of how to cut out draft a basic sleeve, please check it out. Okay, it's actually a template for what I'm doing. Okay, I wanted to fold this up a bit at the edge. Okay, I even went ahead to still join the fabric, okay, later on, because my fabric wasn't much, so I had to improvise. I had to join this up, okay, to get what I wanted at the end, even though it didn't come out as great as I wanted it to be. Okay, so if you have more fabric, you have to use more length for this if you want to make this type of sleeve. Okay, so I went ahead, came down by 4 inches. That's for my sleeve cap. All right, um then I'm marking my round armhole measurement, which is 16 divided by 2 8. So I'm going to mark that down. Okay, right now I'm actually cutting the one piece first, and then I'll use this to trace on another piece to get my second piece of the sleeve. Okay, like I said, I don't have much fabric, so I'm just trying to manage this out. Okay, so from the point where I marked my arm measurement, okay, I just slanted it to the top part. I'm taking the midpoint of this right now. From there, I'm going to go up from there by quarter of an inch, and then I'll go down by quarter of an inch, okay, for my sleeve curve. Okay, so that's basically what we're doing for this. Okay, so like I said, I went ahead to add 1 inch to my arm, to the allowance for my sleeve. Okay, you want to add this up, okay, so you can use this to stitch down. All right, so the intention is to fold this up, to fold my sleeve up, okay, to a certain length. I wanted this to be longer, but well, we just had to manage. Okay, so I went ahead to mark where the point where my sleeve will end. Okay, it's about 12 inches divided by 2. I had 6. I added my allowance. Okay, so I was considering at this point if I should add it or not. Okay, so you want to do this and make sure you have lots of fabric. Okay, so I had this. Okay, at the point I even went ahead to join this up. Okay, so I just went ahead to cut this out to get my sleeve. All right, so I had this after it. Okay, like I said, I went ahead to join this up. So this is what I have after everything. Okay, so what I want to do next is to take a measurement for where I'll be folding this to. Okay, I took 9 inches. I'll be folding it up to that level, okay, up to that point to get the pattern I want for my sleeve. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to fold up my sleeve to that end. Okay, not forgetting to fold in the end of the sleeve, okay, to be like this, and I'm going to stitch it down. All right, just make a stitch at the tip of it. Okay, so this is what I have. All right, after doing that, so I'm going to make another stitch across. Okay, to do this, I'll just measure out half an inch. Okay, my elastic is actually half an inch, so I'm using an elastic of half an inch. Okay, I'll measure this out, okay, with half an inch to get my elastic casing, and then I'll stitch it down, okay, down to the other end of this. All right, so I've already done that. This is what I have. Okay, so to get the elastic I need, I'm just going to take a measurement of my bicep. Okay, that's where my sleeve will be stopping. All right, so I took a measurement of that. Go ahead and do that for yourself. Okay, and I gave about half an inch extra so that it to be a little bit free. So I'm going to cut 2 pieces of this, okay, for my 2 sleeves. So I'm just cutting this out. Okay, so I'm going to pass this through the elastic casing I made for the sleeve. Okay, so go ahead and do that for yours. Going to pass this down. Okay, after passing it out, I'm just going to stitch it to the end. Okay, you don't want your elastic to be running around, so ensure after doing the after passing it through, you stitch it down. Okay, so I'm going to do that later, and then I'll do it for the other sleeve too. Okay, so I have this as my sleeve. Okay, I already have it. Okay, so I've gone ahead to get the midpoint of one of the sleeve and then stitched it down, pinned it down, sorry. So I'm just going to stitch it down and then actually stitch the sides down by 2 inches. Okay, I'm sorry, the video, I think something went missing. Okay, the point. Okay, so I brought in my skirt, that's the down part. Okay, I already went ahead to hem the bottom like I said. So the next thing I want to do is to attach the up to the down. Okay, so I'm making a notch for the front part. So I just took the center of the front. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing for the up part. Take the midpoint. Okay, I'm going to place them together right now, and then I'll stitch them down. Okay, just attaching everything together, joining everything, my up and down together. I'll be joining this down with 1 inch. Okay, so that it will pull. So I've done that exactly. So this is what I have after doing that. Okay, like I said, we'll be doing a pattern of English zip. Okay, so I want to show you how to do this. Okay, so remember the part I left at the top. Okay, I'm going to sew my zip down to that point. Okay, it's going to come out from that point. Okay, I hope you got that. You're going to see this after I stitch it down. All right, so I've done that. This is what I have. Okay, you want to ensure that both parts of your zip are at exactly the same point. Okay, you don't want one to be longer than the other. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to fold up my interfacing back. Okay, the way it should have been. Okay, and then made a stitch on top of it. Okay, on top of the zip I placed. Okay, I'll do it for the other one too, right? So I'm going to stitch it down right now to show you what it looks like. Okay, so I'm just going to stitch it down. Okay, so this is what we're going to have. So after doing that, we want to cut out the excess of the zip at the top. Okay, cut it out. And the next we are going to do is to turn it over. We're going to stitch this down. Okay, so you're going to trace where you made the first stitch. Okay, where you made your zip stitch. Okay, you don't want to stitch on your zip exactly. Okay, on the teeth of the zip. Okay, so make sure you mark this out. Okay, like I did, and then going to stitch on it. All right, so I'm going to do this for both of them. This is a way to fix English zipper. Okay, it turned out quite nice and good, so you want to try this out. Okay, so if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Okay, and we are celebrating 100 subscribers. Okay, we're going to grow more. Okay, so this is what we have after that. All right, so it's going to look like this. Okay, this is what it looks like. It looks nice, right? I know it looks nice, and you know it looks nice. So while zipping it up, it looks like this. Okay, so this is the final product of our dress. You can see it came out exactly as I wanted it to be. Okay, the sides are longer. Okay, and the front is short. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.